Okay, I'm gonna call the October 30th, 2024 meeting of Lake Quinsigamond Commission to order. Thank you all for coming. I'm not gonna say the world is ruled by those who show up, because I know it's getting old. And I just wanted to remind everybody this is being filmed, and if you want to review this after, you can do it that way. And so all you folks at home, is this live, Mark?
No,
It's not live, so all you folks at home, when you see this,
tomorrow morning.
tomorrow morning, bright and early, it'll be great. So, review and act on the acceptance of September 2024 meeting minutes.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of September 2024.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so voted. Review and approval of bills and expenses.
We have a few, top four up there, of which I guess the audit, okay, I can see them right behind me.
What's that?
We paid the top four, all of the various months for the party at the police department boathouse. US Marine invoice, with buoys and labels paid. The TRC invoice, 3,515, and the legal notices for the drawdown have been paid. Now, at the very bottom, which we have just lost, okay, it's come back up. The TRC invoice, they billed us 4,000, we only paid 3,515, so there's a question on that one. And then the Paget Environmental Services for the rear plant survey, that one hasn't been paid either.
Okay, we don't know why, Madam Secretary,
Yes,
do we know why the TRC bill was 35 and not 4,000?
we are just trying to, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to look into it. I'll touch base with Jess this week and
Okay.
confirm.
And to pay Dr. Paget, what do we need to do for that?
I will check with Jess this week.
Okay.
Did we vote on, should we take a vote on it to make sure?
Well,
We
kinda
did?
Well, we haven't voted on it to pay this one, but we did it. We voted on the budget, so I'm kind of confused about how we vote on the budget, get all that stuff approved. But move on. But I'm fine, we can vote on it right now, because we haven't paid it yet, so we can, if you want to do that.
It's
Do I have a
up.
motion?
I motion we pay the bill for the
It's the one
Dr.
missing
Paget.
from the bottom.
Dr. Paget for what,
$4,200.
$4,200.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? Perfect, so voted. So we're good. Send Ron a check. Please. Is that it for
Yes.
bills and expenses? Something like you said, the whole fancy thing behind it. All right, discuss funding opportunities for Lake Quinsigamond from the Community Preservation Program, presented by, backed by popular demand, Jacqueline Burmeister, who's got another really long title. It's Community Preservation Manager, Special Projects, Department of Economic Development, City of Worcester.
That's
I'll
right.
write it down. All right.
So
Chocolate.
should I just hop up here and,
You can come present, you can plug in right here.
oh, okay. Great. I mean, I could also, I could share my screen.
We want to see you on camera too.
The only reason Mark came tonight.
Public participation.
Okay.
Allison, are you recording?
Yeah. I'm recording the Google Meet.
All right, excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Burmeister from the City of Worcester Executive Office of Economic Development. Special Projects is the division for the brand new Community Preservation Program with the City of Worcester. And so I know that all of you are familiar with the Community Preservation Act already. Both Shrewsbury and Grafton have beaten Worcester to the punch of passing a CPA. But Worcester is really excited to be joining the group. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about the status of CPA in Worcester. I know all of you are familiar with a little bit of how it works. I could go over that fairly briefly and then kind of talk to you about the money that's available, the process that's going on, and kind of the timeline for beginning to receive applications. And answer any other questions that you might have if that works. Great.
Can you present in the Google Meet, please?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought
No,
that
it's fine.
was-
We're winging it today.
So,
Thank you.
all right. Is that what's showing up?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so, real quick. As all of you know, the Community Preservation Act is a Massachusetts state law that allows participating communities to establish a community preservation fund. Back in November of 2022, the voters of Worcester passed question 5 to establish a community preservation fund enacted by with a surcharge of 1.5% on the annual property tax beginning in fiscal year 24. And that is the majority of what makes up the fund that we're able to use for exclusively open space and recreation, historic preservation, and community/affordable housing projects. So there are some exemptions in Worcester. This is any property over $100,000 is when the surcharge kicks in. So if you have a $200,000 property, the surcharge only applies to the second 100,000. And then on top of that, if you qualify for any abatements for living in a household that qualifies as low income or moderate income senior, then you can apply for those abatements on the City of Worcester website. So the surcharge for the average taxpayer or property holder in the City of Worcester, if you have a single family home, is about $56 a year. So the hope is that this 1.5% surcharge is not necessarily going to be burdensome for your typical homeowner. The money is coming from that surcharge is only part of the Community Preservation Fund. In fact, it is matched by a state trust fund that is distributed every year. This trust fund is made up of fees that are collected on property transactions. So every year that's divided between all the CPA communities based on how much they've collected in local revenue. And then on top of that, this fund can accrue interest. In the City of Worcester, between all these revenue sources, we understand that our first year of collections before we qualified for the annual state match from the state were about $3.6 million. And I don't believe that matches what's on the screen right now. That was previously updated. But we do expect that once we start receiving the match in fiscal year 25, we're estimating about $4.7 million. So it is a significant chunk of money that we get to work with for these projects. At the end of the day, there are very small restrictions on how we divide up that money. There's a minimum of 10% of our revenue every year that must be allocated to each of those 3 funding categories that I mentioned. So every year, we don't necessarily have to spend, but we have to allocate 10% of our revenue to open space and outdoor recreation projects, 10% to historic preservation projects, and 10% to community housing projects. That means that already we have about $400,000 in each of those three categories waiting to be spent on these projects. And that money, if we don't spend it, remains in those categories, continues to accrue forever and ever until it's spent, because this will never go into the general fund. It will only be used for these types of projects. In the city of Worcester, we have an administrative fund. It's optional, but we do have a staff position for this, managing this fund. We could also use this money for land appraisals, any due diligence around any of the activities associated with managing the community preservation program. So holding a public meeting and having snacks could be paid for with the administrative fund. After that, the remaining 65% of the revenue every year can be spent on any of those three funding categories. And so it's really up to the Community Preservation Committee to decide how they want to allocate that. And the idea is that those allocations are based on what the community's preferences are and the quality of the projects that are submitted. Apart from those restrictions on percentages, there's very few restrictions on who can apply for these funds. It is not just community, city projects. These are projects that can be funded for NGOs, 501c3s, or even individuals are able to apply for these funds. So what projects are eligible? When we're talking about community housing, I'm sorry, I'm not able to see it on this screen here. Is it possible for me to see my screen? I just feel like I'm not able to. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. All right, so I just felt like I wasn't able to read it very well for you all, but so what are the eligible projects? So when it comes to community housing, this is low and moderate income housing for individuals, families, including low to moderate income senior housing. In this world, we're talking about, are these going, are these changing? I'm not sure that they are. Yes, yes, they are, okay. So low income is 80% of the area-wide median income. Moderate income is 100% of the area-wide median income, and a senior is a person having reached the age of 60 or over. So any housing projects that are specified for these populations could be eligible for CPA funds. On top of that, so types of projects that are eligible include maybe you click it.
There you go.
There you go. I think you have to do that. So projects are transfers to municipal affordable housing trusts. So some cities, including Worcester, has a municipal affordable housing trust that is responsible for putting, helping to provide grant funding to the construction of new affordable housing. You can do land purchases for the construction of community housing. You could do housing buy-down programs, rental assistance programs, and first-time homebuyer programs. These were really popular during the pandemic. You could support pre-development activities. We all know that CPA, affordable housing projects are really expensive, take a long time, and so being able to support those pre-development activities is a really popular use of funds. You could preserve existing affordable housing, that naturally occurring affordable housing that is becoming so rare. And the construction and adaptive reuse projects of older, of other buildings. When we're talking about historic resources, the state is referring to anything that is a building, structure, vessel, which is a boat, real property, document, or an artifact that is either listed on the Massachusetts State Register of Historic Places or has been determined by the local historical commission to be of local import. So the local historical commission has this added responsibility now of determining what is considered historically significant. So types of projects that are eligible for historic resources include Acquisition of historic resources, historic building restoration and preservation. This could be both public and privately owned buildings, as long as there's a demonstrated public benefit. And then the document digitization and preservation. And so preserving those historic resources like town records that are, you know, maybe sitting in a moldy basement right now. So now I guess switching gears to those funding categories that are maybe more relevant to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission. When we're talking about outdoor recreation projects, we're talking about any active or passive recreational use, including but not limiting to the use of land for community gardens, trails, non-commercial youth and adult sports, as well as the use of land as a park, playground, or athletic field. The only exceptions are the purchase or construction of artificial turf, construction of indoor recreational structures or stadiums, dog or horse racing, or sidewalk construction along the right-of-way. We don't want to be supplanting funds that DPW should be incorporating into their budget anyway. So the projects that are eligible for outdoor recreation include construction and rehabilitation of things like dog parks and existing spray pads and playgrounds, athletic fields and gardens, the acquisition of land for outdoor recreation, and the construction of trails, including rail trails. Open space is similar but not exactly the same as space for recreation. So we have land to protect existing and future well fields, aquifers and recharge areas, watershed land, agricultural land, grasslands, fields, forests, salt marshes, and in this case, really, we're talking about rivers, streams, lakes, and ponds, the frontage around them, beaches, dunes, and lands to protect those scenic vistas and wildlife. So when we're thinking about Lake Quinsigamond, we're thinking about open space. Projects include purchase of conservation restrictions, acquisition of land for use as open space. If we had a conservation fund, we could spend the money on that. We could preserve open space through invasive plant removal, as long as it's a non-maintenance. We could protect farmland, and we could restore or rehabilitate open space that's been initially purchased with CPA funds. So that's a lot. We have a chart that we use to figure out really quick and easily if a project is eligible for CPA funds. Basically, across the top of this chart, we have the different funding categories, and then across the side, we have the different verbs that you're performing within each of those categories. So for example, for open space, you could acquire open space, you could create open space, and you could preserve open space. For recreation, you could do all those three, but you could also rehabilitate and restore. So this is a handy little chart that's probably going to be the first step in any funding proposal that we put together. I know that you are all familiar with some CPA projects already on Lake Quinsigamond. I know that Grafton has used some of their funds to do a study on Flint Pond already. There are a few other examples here of some cool projects that have been done across the Commonwealth. And for the purpose of time, I wanted to just kind of move forward to talk about how the process is going to work for awarding these funds in Worcester. As in all CPA communities, we have a community preservation committee, which is made up of different residents that are existing members of local boards, including the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Parks and Rec Commission, the Worcester Housing Authority, and the Historical Commission, as well as 4 at-large members. And the idea is that they are going to be using their expertise to help create not just a plan to prioritize eligible projects, but also ultimately select the projects that go to City Council. And so they have a big job right now, which is to create those criteria which we judge the eligible projects. All those slides I had before, those are the state mandates about what the minimum qualifications have to be for a project to be eligible for CPA funding. Here in Worcester, we know that we're going to get more projects than we could ever fund. And so we need to create fair criteria that are based on community priorities for how we're gonna allocate that money throughout the community. And so what we're doing is we're trying to figure out exactly what the community wants. So I now am going through our different plans that have been created with community input, and I'm going to different community organizations and asking them what their funding priorities are in the realm of these different categories. I had an opportunity to talk with the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, as well as the Lake Quinsigamond, representatives from Lake Quinsigamond Commission and representatives from Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association about some of their priorities in open space and recreation a couple of weeks ago. And in conversations like this, I'm beginning to tease out the themes that are important to the public. What we're gonna do then is we're gonna bring all those themes to the community, and we're gonna have them rank them based on what they think. And once we have an idea of what the most popular themes are amongst the community, we're going to create criteria that we're gonna use to rank projects in all those different categories. So that's gonna be the job of the Community Preservation Committee. And that, my role as the Community Preservation Manager is to be that liaison. And so to do all these meetings, to bring information to groups like you so that you know that how you can apply and how you can get involved in the creation of this project. We really want to hear from you. This is a democratic fund, and we want to make sure that the people who are paying into this surcharge are able to apply. So I have in this slide deck some examples of priorities that have come out of other community preservation plans. And you could read through them at your leisure, but what's basically gonna happen is that we're gonna have all these themes that came out of these conversations, and we're gonna have a community forum in December. And we're gonna present all the themes that we took out of the conversations with the Lake Quinsigamond Commissions and the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Associations and the Parks Division and the Planning Division, and we're gonna have all those out there making their case for why they're priorities, and then the community is going to weigh in. And based on that weigh-in, we're going to create the goals of our plan. The timeline is such. The fall right now, we're doing the review of all those priorities. These are some of the plans that I'm looking at when I'm making my initial determinations of what we are thinking about for themes. In the winter, we'll hold the public hearing and draft the application process. We'll advertise the grant opportunity and open funding applications in fiscal year 26. I'm sorry, that's not correct. We're going to publish the community preservation plan in early 2026 and open up funding applications then for funding in fiscal year 26. So in that meantime, I'll continue to go to community groups like this and share the community preservation plan progress in Worcester. There are some QR codes. I have some cards here that you can scan in order to join our mailing list to get important dates, such as when these community forums are, when the public hearing is to weigh in on the final community preservation plan. And ultimately to know when applications are open and when you can apply. The goal is to make a really simple and straightforward application that's accessible by everyone. And to make sure that we can fund as many projects as possible. So with that, I have up here some this is the community preservation newsletter QR code. If you were to scan this, then you can stay up to date on all of those dates and know when the opportunities will be available for funding application. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, I think I have a question and a couple of comments. When Grafton put its plan together, it updated its 20-year projection of what Grafton wants to do and was listing the priorities. In particular, since this is a Lake Commission, I'll only mention, it put very high in its priorities that maintaining the water quality of its aquatic sources and particular access to the water for its residents was one of the very high points. So my question is Worcester going to correlate their 20-year plan for the future with the way that the Community Preservation Act funds projects?
That's, I think I'm understanding your question, but stop me if I'm going in the wrong direction. So the City of Worcester has quite a few long-range plans. Most recently, our biggest effort was the Now Next plan, which is a plan that looks I think in the next 20 years, at all the priorities across the city that may or may not be eligible for CPA funding. The community preservation plan really only applies to the funding that comes in through CPA. And so when we create that plan, we're really using it to determine which projects are going to be selected. And the way I think that the state has it set up is that we have to revisit it every year, not necessarily do a sweeping update, but to make sure that we're tweaking it in a way that is reflective of what's going on in the community. So we can determine later on if we want to do a whole community review again every 2 years, every 5 years, every 20 years. But I think it only makes sense that as our community grows and changes, that we revisit those priorities in a pretty periodic way.
Okay, yes, Grafton, as being a smaller town, probably has a longer time interval for updating its plan. That's usually why it calls it a 20-year plan. But moving on, when Grafton funded the Flint Pond project through their Community Preservation Act, everything went smoothly except for one problem, and that was the actual details of how the Community Preservation Committee transfers its funds from the town of Grafton to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission. So I'm just suggesting that Worcester looks at that and solves that problem before they run into it.
And that's a really wonderful suggestion, and it was something I've talked about with some of the members of the other towns that are part of these communities in particular, because Worcester has the benefit, although we're late to the game and we've missed out on a lot of money up to this point, we have the benefit of the knowledge and learning from all of the things that have happened in the communities around us. So for any town officials that are present, I will probably be reaching out over the next weeks and months to learn about some of the successes and opportunities around the implementation in their towns.
And my third and last comment was Grafton's interaction with the state also ran into a problem, and since it wasn't mentioned on any other lists, I decided to bring that up, which the state laws for the Community Preservation Act strictly prohibits anything that could be possibly interpreted as routine maintenance, such as clearing the lake of weeds every year. They have to be unique, distinct projects with a beginning and end. You cannot in any way have anything that is considered routine work, for example, by the Department of Public Works. So that needs to be watched out carefully as well, because the state's very, very careful about that.
Absolutely, you make a very good point, and I kind of ran through it quickly here. The first thing is, yes, these are generally capital projects that we're talking about. And when it comes to something like an invasive plant removal project, we're looking at these one and done types of projects as opposed to maintenance. So mechanical harvesting or chemical applications probably wouldn't qualify for that type of thing. But if you were to do a dredging project, that would more fall in line with a capital project that would also remove a seed bank in a way that it's not going to come back. It's not going to need that routine maintenance.
That answer any questions?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Jacqueline, the community preservation funds are relative to Worcester period, not any other crossing the boundaries area on the lake that say could be in the town of Shrewsbury or Grafton. Is that correct?
So that's a really interesting comment, and something that we talked about a little bit with the representatives from the Commission and the Watershed Association, since the surrounding towns of Worcester are also CPA communities and they share a public resource. And so something that's being explored now are collaboration projects with other CPA communities and what those would look like. But to answer your question about where the money can go, the money doesn't have to necessarily be spent in Worcester as long as there is a benefit to Worcester residents. And so an example that's fairly common is that the city of Worcester has a reservoir system that spans far outside of the city boundaries. The city typically will buy land around our reservoir system in Princeton and in Holden, and so we own quite a bit of land out there. And the purchase of that land, while not in Worcester and not even really public access, is arguably a public benefit because you are securing high quality water for Worcester residents. And so that would be an eligible project. One could apply that same logic to a project in the Lake Quinsigamond area. And it would be further strengthened if there was buy-in by other communities that are CPA communities.
You know, just if I can just take the opportunity to make a suggestion. North Lake Ave around the Coal Mine Brook, what's referred to historically as the Browning Beach area, that could be upgraded with benches and better than just hanging yellow plastic bags on the fences to encourage people not to throw the trash in the lake, some other kind of area. But again, I guess it can't be regularly maintained. But frankly, dredging behind the bridge where the Belmont Street drain goes in, behind the Lincoln Park Towers, that could be dredged to help knock back the weeds, as well as some dredging south of the outflow from the Worcester pumping station on Lake Ave. I think there's been some siltation that's come in from the Lake Ave pumping station over the years, dumping into the lake that merit dredging so that it could not encourage as much weed growth. So those might qualify as one-time projects that are just off the top of my head in terms of the city of Worcester might be something to be considered. So,
Excellent, thank you.
never mind Worcester and if you take in Shrewsbury and Grafton in terms of the lake being of a benefit to city residents, and there are plenty of people from Worcester that fish in Lake Quinsigamond, that row in Lake Quinsigamond, swim in Lake Quinsigamond, do other various recreational activities. There are other, as you know, Jacqueline, having attended previously commission meetings, there's a number of other issues that potentially, especially if they could be coordinated with the community preservation committees of, say, Shrewsbury and or Grafton, that might be able to be looked at and attempted to be reconciled. I mean, it's in the town of Shrewsbury, but there's a drain off of Route 20 that starts in Worcester. The Route 20 underpass where 122A is, that's created a siltation berm right there behind what's called the Sears Plaza. And the origins of that are in the city of Worcester. But that impacts the recreational ability to use the waterway behind the Sears Plaza, which then is Shrewsbury. But again, the origins of a lot of that siltation are started in Worcester. Again, the Route 20 underpass that is crossed over by 122A. So, I mean, those are a few ideas I have. There's things to keep in mind, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, that's it?
Are there any other questions, comments? No?
Well,
Want to please talk?
So, I just want to say thanks, Jacqueline. We actually discussed some of the projects at that little meeting that Mike brought up. So I think it's an exciting thing. I'm glad Worcester's on board with this. And I think probably one of the most promising thing, or exciting things to me, is that if we can work out some kind of collaboration between the different municipalities, and that would be, I think that would be a very effective way to disperse the funds and to use them for the greater good. So thank you so much. I'm glad also they put their top person on the job here. So that's good. Thank you.
well, thank you for the opportunity to come back and talk about it. I look forward to continuing to work with the Lake Commission and the Lake Association, and hope to see some applications from you all at some point in time as well.
Great.
Thank
you
you.
all for your work.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
So, that's okay. She's not that good. So, I have to apologize to Marguerite that I skipped over the public participation. I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay, it was a great public.
But it's too late now.
Lots to
Okay,
learn.
so- I'm only kidding. You're up next, so.
Oh, okay. Can I give you this?
Sure, of course. Thank you.
So my name's Marguerite Cormier. I've been boating on this lake since 1989. Been a property owner on the lake since 1994, and I'd like to thank the Lake Quinsigamond Commission board members and everyone else who could attend this meeting tonight in person and online to hear what I have to say. I want to thank the Lake Quinsigamond Commission for listening to the public during the public hearings and for the forming a subcommittee, coming up with the great solutions. The proposed solutions are working. Our lake is a much better place to boat on now. Stephen Power and I will meet with Chief Anderson in December to go over a few concerns we have. One in particular is Patrolman Timothy Charlin returning this spring, 2025, especially between the hours of 4 p.m. and a little after sunset. We still have bad actors on the lake with no lights, pushing the limit, not by getting off the lake 1 hour before sunset. At some point, someone's going to get hurt, and if they haven't already, we have Rule 19, all craft not covered by state or federal regulations must carry and display appropriate lighting from sunset to sunrise, including at least one portable flashlight. This should be a worry for all of us, I think, for the 2025 boating season. And today, October 30th, 2024, I stand before you and would like to request a public hearing to talk about watercraft or machines that create large, unnatural, man-made wakes that cause destruction to the shoreline and the ground under the lake. I've talked with the folks at 157B North Quinsigamond Ave in Shrewsbury about the recent sinking of their watercraft. Pam and her husband were not home at the time. The neighbor, Luann, had to call to let them know that their boat was being swamped by the wakes coming in. The part I'm talking about now is not added on your thing. It was something added by Pam. She wanted me to add to this. So this is my part. It was a beautiful day on the lake with no real reason why this should have happened. So Pam said the marina that repaired our boat and got us back on the water confirmed that there was no cracks, bilge pump not broken, and no reason other than being overtaken by water that could see as the cause. She said we spent a substantial amount of money to float and tow the boat, repair the boat, and of course, the town resources that were used all day long. Lastly, Pam said, our land is eroding into the water at a much greater rate than in years past. Thankfully, Luann was looking out. Once the police and the fire department were called, they responded quickly. Truly a big team effort went into this and went very well. The community and I appreciate you. I would like to talk about Rule 31. Motorized boats or vessels of any nature exceeding 30 feet in length are prohibited on Lake Quinsigamond. It doesn't apply to crew boats. Why is this a rule? I believe a committee member said it makes a wake that is too big for this lake. Is it time to update Rule 31 or add a new rule? A public discussion and subcommittee could greatly help with this. Some thoughts: man-made wakes of any kind of watercraft or machine cannot exceed a certain height. What size would that be? Question mark. Where on the lake is safe to use these big wake-making watercrafts or machines? How many can be in the same area at the same time? A public discussion and subcommittee would help with these questions. This YouTube study is a great place to start. What are these big wakes doing to our shorelines and ecosystem under the water we do not see? And I give you this paperwork because I don't know how else to give you the link for anyone to access that. I'd like to turn our attention now to the proposed solutions in 2024 not acted on yet. I feel some solutions have not been met. The biggest issue for me is proper signage at the public boat ramp at 37 Tararac Lane in Shrewsbury. When the police officers read the police reports during the meetings, the activity tells us the activity tells us this is one of the most active boat ramps along with Oak Island on Route 20, where people are putting in watercraft and jet skis of all types. Since you added active police patrols at both boat ramps, this stops them from entering the water. When can we expect new readable signages to go in? We have a signage board, and on the other, one of those pages, you'll see a picture what it looks like. My hope, in 2025, when the boating season starts up, police are patrolling the lake starting in early April 2025 in full force to let the bad actors know our lake is not a place to be reckless. In 2024, word got out quickly. I feel we must keep it up very early in the beginning of 2025 boating season. In all boating seasons going forward, bad actors are not welcomed. In my opinion, if we do not continue early April in every upcoming boating season with proposed solutions that are proven and have worked in 2024 boating season to stop bad actors and bad behavior while at the lake, then I feel like there can be no more talk about banning watercraft from any of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission members. I'm looking forward to the public hearing date being announced and the proper signage at the public boat ramp in Shrewsbury going in as it did at Oak Island. Thanks for listening, and that's all I got except for the picture on the back showing our sign. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marguerite. Okay,
I'm gonna ask everyone to refrain, and I'm not trying to step anyone's, First Amendment rights here, but to refrain from clapping, unless you can figure out a way to clap through the chair in the meeting, so I'd appreciate it. Notwithstanding the good report that Marguerite and Jacqueline have given us. So the next item on the agenda is commissioners' reports.
start with you, Mr. Piker.
A few items, Mr. Chair. A lot of waterfowl coming through, a lot of Canada geese. Just a couple days ago, I saw a mature eagle on the tree right there where they've been nesting. So the eagles are still around. The lake's down because the watershed hasn't got, as everybody knows, a lot of rain. But a few people have implored me to bring up this evening how much they appreciate the town, the city, and the state agencies that did enforcement this past boating season, and that things were noticeably and appreciatively better in terms of misbehavior. Let me be succinct on the lake. And I don't have to get into details on that. We've discussed that before. And people wanted to have me make a point to let it be known how much they really appreciate the efforts on the part of law enforcement to curtail, bad behavior. And I would concur from my observation as well. Never mind what people have been approaching me and asking me to bring up tonight. Other than that, there's been rowing up until this past weekend. The lake has had a lot less activity following Labor Day, in particular after Columbus Day. And that's about it, Mr. Chair. No.
All right. I'll agree with you on the fantastic job that law enforcement has done. I think the thing I'm most enthused about and optimistic about is the collaboration and cooperation between the agencies that, didn't seem to be in play, over the years so far. It does really worked out well. So I'm not sure if Marguerite was mentioning Officer Charlin in a good way or a bad way, if she wanted to come back or not, but I know there's probably people on both sides of that request. But I think that, all the police officers, certainly Tim, but all the police officers did a really, really good job this year, and they helped, kind of rope it in. I'll also echo previous comments that it
I think it's important that we hit the ground running, hit the water swimming, next year with the same type of, you know,
Yeah.
level of activity.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for that. It was definitely welcome. And next, well, I guess you're next.
Sergeant Bradley, Shrewsbury PD. This past month we participated in the final fall races, and we are this weekend planning to pick up the remaining buoys in the south end of the lake, and then pulling the boat out for the winter.
That's it.
That's it.
And no skating patrol this year?
No skating patrol.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll see. All right, thanks again. The new buoys, we still have two, unless someone picked those up from your side, we still have two at US.
Yeah, we're still at the marina still.
Yeah, we still have two there, so, and next year, you know, I really want to, two things. We talked about mapping them, you know, numbering the buoys, so if one gets away,
Right.
and we have a map of, we know, okay, that came, typically you can tell.
Yeah. Typically, we do have a little piece of tape on it with a label of the part of the lake that should be at.
Okay.
It may wash off.
Yeah, I think that the other purpose that may serve, that if someone, if there's some kind of distress call or
Mhm.
going on, you know, it may be helpful to say, they're at, you know, to tell, you know, law enforcement, they're at buoy 31, or
Right.
whatever the number is, and
For the public to call in.
the public to call in
Yeah,
and
right.
say, hey, we're here, or for someone else to call in,
Right.
because, you know, some people know the different parts of the lake by different names. I mean, the Eagle Island literally has, 5 names that I know of. Eagle, Drake, Long, and the other 3, too. So there's, you know, you never know where you are, so, you know, that may help you in that regard as well. But, awesome, let us know if you need any help with that kind of effort. All right, thank you. Sergeant Smith isn't here, Mr. Polito.
Shrewsbury Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions to the Mass DOT for the installation of a drain line on Route 20, discharging into Flint Pond behind the Sears Plaza. They agreed to upgrade all the catch basins along the route, 20-plus catch basins with deep sumps and hoods. They've also agreed to study the sediments that have been deposited over the years by the existing drain line. They're gonna study that and come back and let us know what their findings are. They're also going to provide us with an O&M manual and updates, reporting updates on what they have for maintenance of that stilling basin and on the catch basins.
Okay. I was at the meeting, the last meeting we had in Conservation. It was a tough meeting, and I really appreciate Conservation Commission's stick-to-itiveness of making sure that, you know, we got as much as we could, these guys to move forward. There was some kind of, did I hear you say this, there was some kind of study that they're gonna do for the dredging part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
District 3 is going to take that on, and they're going to do that, and I think they've already initiated that, or
Okay.
got the wheels rolling within that. Don't know anything more than what was discussed at that
Okay.
meeting.
I mean, I think that, in my mind, that's probably one of the most important things.
That was part of the order that they had to do that, so it's written in the order of conditions, so that's a condition of the order of conditions.
That's a big deal, what
Yep.
you would have too.
Mhm.
I appreciate it.
And if I can just interrupt, Mr. Chair, that drain has been adding sediment to the lake there for decades, and it never stops. And it would be great to have that dredged, to open up the waterway of the lake. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, so, is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Who's next? Travis is not here. Worcester Conservation, we've already lost our Worcester Conservation guy. Which is too bad, because,
Bill Nelson?
No, it's the draft and conservation guy. Ms. Fiore's not here, so,
Okay, just, I guess, 4 things I want to mention. Obviously, everyone knows now that the fall college regattas are over. They went well. The lake is really now open for the residents until they get iced out. The only thing left going on is actually the Donahue Boating Club. They're holding their annual season get-together this Saturday morning where they all come out with all of their boats at the same time. Everybody guesses how long it will take them to row from one end of the lake to the other. They do it all together, and the person who guesses the best time for his rowing, they're not allowed to use watches or timers, wins their little prize. And then they have a big breakfast at the Donahue Boathouse, and basically then the club rowing is over for the season. The few individuals will go out after that will be having to obey the four-oar rule, which means that you need 2 singles to go out together. And that rule goes into effect when the water temperature is, the sum of the water temperature and the air temperature is less than 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So rowing will really go down. I guess the one other thing I want to mention is that, at least I have noticed, that the authorized parking at the fall regattas, i.e. any of the regattas that totally operate out of the Donahue Boathouse, the authorized parking around the boathouse, both in front and back. For example, the Snake Regatta was very big, and the parking lot just, with 3 rows of cars, one behind another, people were locked in for the whole part of the day. The Wormtown Regatta was much smaller, and it didn't have that problem. And as best as I can tell from watching it and being around both of those 2 days, is that for some reason an awful lot of the visiting colleges nowadays just seem to have many more coaches, assistant coaches, and other authorized college officials from their schools all insisting that they drive their own cars rather than come on the team bus with all the rowers. I remember when I rowed that, the coaches were always in the team bus. And so I'm sort of surprised at some of these collections of important people coming from the various schools trying to park in a finance spot. And I'm just mentioning that since we obviously have a representative of the Quinsigamond Rowing Association looking at me as I say this. And that's my friendly point that I'm just wondering about. Maybe a little thinking could be done for next fall.
okay, is that it?
Yep.
All right. So noted. One second. So, yeah, I mean, that's, the parking issue is something that we're gonna have to work out with the organizing event.
Oh, can I mention?
Yeah.
I forgot one thing. I was going to say at the beginning of that, of course, the problem does not exist on the streets and elsewhere where law enforcement's doing a very good job. So in no way a comment on what the job you and the other agencies are doing.
Okay. On the Donahue race, that race is new to me for some reason. Is there something?
It's been done for the 16 years I've been there, and I've been told, Jason probably knows a lot better than I do, that this was going on long before that. They always end their season, the breakfast, it's called a caffeine classic get-together because the breakfast and the food afterwards is probably just as important, if not more important, that they all get out in the water together. And it's done early in the morning, and it's not really a race, it's just a chance for them to all get out for one last time.
How many boats are there?
All of the people who still want to row, which if I can sort of make a rough average of it, there's a couple of singles, a couple of fours, a couple of pairs, and usually 2 eights. And they take turns when they go around the third island, all heading up in single file, and they ended at the Donahue Boathouse. And typically, that takes anywhere from, 12 minutes roughly, saying for an 8 who wants to row hard, the twice that, 24 minutes for a single who hasn't practiced enough.
Okay. All right. It's an organized event?
Yes,
Okay. There's less than 25 boats?
yes, and it's just the members of the club who want to do this every year.
All right. Okay, thank you. Then that's it?
That's it.
Okay, so, my quick report, couple of things, again, I want to thank, Ken and the Shrewsbury, Conservation Commission for the, great job they did with, this project that's going on in Route 20. It's an important project, because, you know, we really need to, because this has been going on for decades, like Mr. Piper said, but it's important to get this water flooding issue off of Route 20. A lot of us that live on that end of the lake, or in that area, you know, they have to face this going up Route 20. And it's just, you know, been a pain in the neck every time we get, I think it's over 4 inches an hour is when that thing starts to flood. So this will really alleviate that. So I'm all for that part of the project. And I really appreciate, you know, the state coming forward with it at this point. But, you know, there are ramifications onto Lake Quinsigamond, especially in an already sensitive area. So it's important that they move forward and keep up with that. Also, you know, we're coming into a time now where our MESA permit, which is, our MESA is the Massachusetts Environmental, Endangered Species Act, and this is the famous natural heritage you've all heard me talk about. And with that permit, you know, expiring, we need to, you know, kind of regenerate that permit, and in so doing, develop a 5-year plan, a new 5-year plan for Lake Quinsigamond. So that project is going to be going on in collaboration with Worcester's Lakes and Ponds program and in the watershed to make sure we you know, get all the stakeholders and hit all the priorities. And I really appreciate the collaboration you know we've always gotten from Worcester Lakes and Ponds regarding this. But this is especially because we have to go through this permitting process again with natural heritage. It's a good time to kind of relook at things and how we're doing things as far as managing the lake and the invasive species we have going on. One in particular is Newton Pond. And I want to say this, if anyone from Newton Pond is watching at home tomorrow morning, that you know, the treatment that we were trying to do that did not really happen this year or the year before as well as we like. Right now, we are in the process of renewing our permit for Newton Pond. And I know that Shrewsbury Concom is aware of this. And we're also coming up with an additional permit to do a drawdown in Newton Pond. Newton Pond is, I think, an exceptionally good candidate for a drawdown because it'll be effective there because it's not as deep, certainly as Lake Quinsigamond. And I think there'll be a lot of freeze areas there, so I think it'll really help out. When we did do the treatment last at Newton Pond, it really did do the trick there. So it was, you know, they didn't really have a big weed problem. I don't think it really reared its ugly head until this season. So we want to keep that going, and we really appreciate the town of Shrewsbury helping us fund that effort. So that will be happening over the study's already being initiated now. I just signed off on that yesterday, and the study will be, and the permit we're hoping to get in by the spring. So that both for the drawdown and for
Weed treatment?
the new weed treatment, the new chemical weed treatment, or however else we decide to do it over there. Also, I got correspondence. I'm going to bring this up in reports that are waiting for the correspondence thing regarding Flint, regarding Round Pond actually, and Flint Pond. Basically, the concern was that there's a large area of growth over there. Some people are calling it some kind of a bacterial thing. The photos I saw, it looked like plant matter to me. It looked like dead plant matter that was kind of floating around. Round Pond is famous, and I can tell you this from navigating it and having one day, they're having these little plant masses floating around on Flint Pond. And they're pretty dense, so when they do hit, and I can tell you this from experience, it will send a 21-foot inboard ski boat right in the air out of the water and plop it back down again like I'm doing a trick at SeaWorld. So, so they're extremely dangerous floating around out there. The concern or the challenge with that part of the lake is that up until this summer, we have not had clearance to treat any of the weeds down there with herbicide. And we haven't really explored hand pulling or dash down in that area of the lake until this last season, which we got permission. But by the time we got the permission and we sent the bids out, there really wasn't a whole bunch of interest from the vendors to do it because it was so late in the season. So next year, we're gonna kind of come around, back around again and try to do something about that. But just to be clear, some of the things we're not going to be able to take care of with that particular kind of treatment, and we're still not allowed at this time to use any kind of herbicide in that part of the lake because of the rare species or the rare species habitat that we have in Round Pond. I think actually there was Vasei. Dr. Paget found Vasei, the actual plant in that area. So there's definitely habitat there. Good news is, we're coming up with ways around the herbicide treatment, and we hope to make that, improve that a little bit more. On the Flint Pond side, again, we've had some issues with, some challenges with getting the bids out properly and accurately and in a timely fashion, and then going through the award process. So, I guess the short answer to that is we kind of tripped over it this season, so it wasn't really done as what we would have liked to have done. We had, the Lake Commission kind of depends on other parts of the town of Shrewsbury to do some of the administrative work that we've done. We are extremely grateful of the help we get from the town. The town, not only do they give us money appropriations above and beyond all the other work that they do, but they supply the bulk of the police work, law enforcement work through the Shrewsbury PD, because they're paying for these shifts that are going out there, not us. And some of it's overtime, so that's good. They also have given us a tremendous amount of administrative help, and that goes all the way, again, from Shrewsbury PD, from handling all the dock plates and, mailing things out, and receiving it, processing the dock permits and all that, and the stickers, and getting them all sent back out to people in a timely fashion. So that's really a good thing. And they manage all our accounts. So we are, the money is ours. It doesn't go into a general fund anywhere in Shrewsbury, but all the accounts go through there. They actually pay our bills. They write the checks and pay the bills out of our funds. So it's been extremely beneficial for us to have these guys here. But all the people that are doing that work have a full plate on their regular assignments. So it's been challenging for them. And then to put, processing the bids and requests and to have the expertise to do that kind of thing on top of that, where these people really don't have that kind of expertise, has been where we've really failed. So we've identified where where the hole in the fence is, and we're coming up. Our solution, I think, to moving forward is that we would like to basically contract someone outside of the traditional administrative people that we use, and to manage these and take care of the bid process, making sure that the permits are the permit schedule. All of our permits from Grafton, from Shrewsbury, from Worcester, and Boylston, if you include Newton Pond, they don't expire at the same time. So it's hard. It's not saying, okay, well, this year's coming up and it's September, and I know that all the permits are going to expire, so we need to make sure that we either get an extension or do what we need to do before that date. But some are expiring, in 2024, some expire in 2025. Unfortunately, one of them expired in 2023 and we missed it. So it's those kinds of things that we want to, shore up and make sure that don't fall through the cracks. So, we think we have a good feel for, you know, the person we can put in that position to help us with that. So we're hoping to, over the off-season, make sure that that's all in place for next season, and that we're gonna work through it. And in collaboration, of course, with Worcester Lakes and Ponds. And I also want to say that this year, some of the permit extensions and the work we had to do there was done by Worcester Lakes and Ponds. So I really appreciate all the work that came out of that, and, you know, because we couldn't do it without it. So that's my humble hand thing. I really appreciate all the help we get from everyone to get the things we need to do for this very important resource here. And I just want to also quickly touch on the wake issues. And, you know, I went over this last month, so it's not like we haven't been thinking about it. I'm not going to say that hearing's a bad idea. Or, you know, I certainly think a subcommittees may be more effective. It worked out well for us on when we're talking about personal watercraft. It's a slippery slope, just like the personal watercrafts were. People have a right to enjoy themselves on the lake. They do not have a right to destroy personal property, to erode the land, to do things that are, you know, that hurt the environment. None of that is appropriate or allowed. We do have rules on Lake Quinsigamond that you can't have boats of a certain size, a certain length. I don't think all of that was because of the size of the wake, but, you know, you have to bear in mind it's not, you know, just a targeted type of boat that can generate a wake that may be too big or may cause damage to personal property or vessel or anything else. And they already have a state law right now that you are in fact responsible for any damage that your wake does to anything. So if it's a dock or if it's another vessel, certainly if you cause injury to a person, eroding the land, the challenge becomes it has to be eyewitnessed. So, you know, you can't call in and say, someone just did this. And I know that there's a, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, how do they go after people with hit and runs if, you know, the police don't actually, you know, witness the event happen, and how do they prosecute that? So that's something we'll explore. And I'm not opposed to tweaking the rules to make sure that everyone understands that on Lake Quinsigamond, that you will be responsible for your wake, and, you know, you're not going to go around and just enjoy your sport and not be accountable for any damage you do while you're doing it. So that said, just like personal watercraft, I have a strong aversion to you know, not letting people allow the lake in a legal and safe manner, like, you know, allow people to enjoy the lake in a legal and safe manner. So I want to make sure that we understand that that is, you know, is important, that we, you know, we keep things open as much as we can. And then the last thing regarding personal watercraft and having lights on them. Lights are good. You should have a light on your boat in case you get stuck out there for some unknown reason after dark. But Mass state law, jet skis are not supposed to be on the lake after dark. Not supposed to be on any body of water in Massachusetts after dark. So lights or no lights. Because you have lights in your personal watercraft does not allow you to operate the personal watercraft after dark. So just bear that in mind. That's, and you know, they catch you out there. And I know that they've done this, they'll escort you right out right away. And another bad idea, as I heard stories about last year too, is they're telling me you're leaving and don't do it. Because that's not gonna turn out well for you. So that's my report on that. And we already discussed CPC, and we have some permits for the rowing association as well, right?
Yes.
We do. So, this is all of next year's,
This would be all of spring 2025.
okay. Typically, Patrick gives us a little spread, a little cheat sheet of the actual,
Yes, I have that. I have
Oh,
that cheat sheet, and I believe he sent it.
Patrick sent it to us the other day, yesterday,
okay.
and I have it if you would like me to pull it up.
Well, I'm just interested, I think the board would be interested in, you know, what date you're actually shutting down the ramp.
And I
Yep.
have, and I have that list, and I can certainly go over that too.
Okay, that's,
Oh, there it is.
Let me
oh,
pull it up real quick. We're trying technology today.
One that is slightly different than mine.
Yes, I just wanted it to fit in one screen,
Oh,
so.
understood.
Uh, this one?
Hopefully it matches what I have.
Yes, and I did share this with police. Yeah, I just, I organized it, I included the day of the week just because that helps me be able to read it, and then I put the holidays with the related weekends.
I highlighted mine yellow as well, so.
Yeah,
okay. 9 PM?
So,
Saturday the 24th, May 24th.
Is that Memorial Day weekend?
No, there's one more weekend.
Okay, so none of the closures are on Memorial Day weekend? Is that,
no, so if we wanted to, again, I'm Jason Steele, I'm with
Yeah,
WPI,
sorry.
representing the QRA. I wanted to address some of the items that Mr. Nelson mentioned and give you some general rowing updates, but if you want to start with the permits, we can do that, or,
no, go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
so some general rowing updates from the rowing community. As of today, all of the buoys that have been on the course, on the lake representing the race course for the fall has been removed, so we spent the day working on that. All of our buoys are off the water. If any residents at home were wondering about the small army of WPI rowers wandering the shores today, I'm happy to report we did our own preservation. We picked up approximately 2 full dumpsters of garbage north of Route 9, and that will be posted.
2
in our-
full dumpsters?
2 full dumpsters of garbage. I think there was something like 14 tires, 3 grocery carts. It was an amazing amount of stuff that we were able to retrieve. So all of those photos are on our Instagram. So if anyone's interested in seeing a large pile of stuff, it's
Very
really-
satisfying that way.
Yeah, it was very satisfying, especially our WPI athletes. They love
It's
picking up
wonderful.
things.
Yep.
Yep. So all of that is piled down at the Donahue Rowing Center right now, and I spoke with Kevin Esposito, the town of Shrewsbury, will be picking it up the next day or two. Before we get to the permits, I wanted to address some of the items that Mr. Nelson mentioned. I understand the parking issue as it related to the snake regatta. I wanted to be clear that, and I think if I understood Mr. Nelson's point, for the community to understand the parking issues were within the Donahue Rowing Center and were impacting those that were participating in the event specifically, that did not get out into the general neighborhood. Although we did recognize that there was a lot of issues that day, so believe it or not, the Wormtown, which you thought might have been smaller, was actually larger, but we did use the Shrewsbury High School parking lot for that event, and we did hire a shuttle to alleviate some of the stuff that had come up at the previous regatta. So I think moving forward, that would be when we're hosting events out of the DRC, I think the kind of standard operating procedure would be we would have parking up at Shrewsbury and just use the shuttle.
Yes, I did not read into any complaining people.
No, I didn't take it then.
At Wormtown, it was perfect.
Yes, yes. So, we took note, and I can't speak to why any coach would, in your day, ride the bus. I personally, as a coach, would not want to ride the bus if I had to, but that's another point. So, and I think the other thing, I just wanted to be very clear, and Mr. Nelson was speaking of the Caffeine Classic. That event is not associated with the QRA. That is not a permitted race, as I understand it. It's certainly not run through the QRA. That is specifically the masters rowers that row out of the Donahue Rowing Center get together and they kind of have their last hurrah. So if you were wondering why that wasn't on our permit list, I just want to make sure that was clear. Okay, so getting into the permits for next spring, this does cover everything from, you'll see March 29th is the first date. This is weather dependent. That's a Holy Cross event. I won't go day by day. I can certainly answer questions, but there are, I believe, there should be 26 dates that were in 26 separate permits that were sent along. Most of these events, well, all of these events will obviously have, they're either college or high school. There'll be guests, visitors. You had mentioned or asked about the ramp closures. We are looking to close the ramp, and obviously you can see it right there. But the 26th, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of May, the 10th and 11th, the 16th, 17th, and 18th, the 23rd, and the 24th, which
Is Memorial
it
Day.
is Memorial Day.
I'll double check.
Yeah, it is
Memorial
Memorial Day weekend. So just to be clear, the request for that's Saturday 8 to 9. The racing ends generally around 5, but we've kept the permit open because if you recall, that's the evening we try to get most of the race course out in preparation for Memorial Day. So we do have volunteers on the lake pulling buoys. We generally have a police boat that will stay. It's the ramp, as we've run it previously, the ramp opens as soon as the racing is done. Boats can launch, but the police stay on the lake just to make sure they understand that we are still out there working. But all of the rowers at that point are off the lake.
And
There
is this just the Corazini boat ramp, or is this both?
Oh no, that's the Corazini boat.
Just Corazini?
Yeah, we only manage and only deal with the Corazini.
Okay,
ramp.
just
Yep.
double checking for the record.
And there's nothing unusual. This would be a typical spring season. I'm looking at this. There's no event here that is unusual. I think if you go back, every 4th or 5th year, we'd be hosting something like the U.S. Rowing Masters Nationals, which is a big one in August. Sometimes we host a U.S. Rowing Juniors event, which is sometimes in May, depending on the year and the number of weekends that are available to us. But none of those non-annual events would be taking place this year.
And we usually deal with those infrequent events as they come. So usually a couple of months before
Yeah.
y'all put in a permit.
Okay, so, the biggest,
My phone starts lighting up, and this is not an exaggeration, in May, April and May, when, people want to put their boat in, and, for the weekend. So everybody's, Saturday's the day they're gonna put their boat in, and I'm gonna call us, can we put the boat in, is the ramp closed? And so it's, that time of year is, particularly sensitive for people who wanna get their stuff in. Some people, I put my boat in at Flint,
Specifically residents.
specifically residents.
Yeah, and our protocol has always been to work with, even though the ramp is closed, if a
Right.
resident comes down, the
Right,
police officers, usually myself or one of the other members of the regatta will speak with the police beforehand, and we'll allow them to just put their boat out, knowing that they're going down to just moor it at their property,
okay,
as long as they follow that traffic pattern on the Shrewsbury side.
in no way.
Yeah, and that, I feel like that has generally worked. It certainly works for us.
Yeah.
I think the residents that come down and have asked about that have appreciated it, and it's generally been a non-issue.
Okay.
The only time anyone gets turned away is if they're a non-resident looking to specifically boat that day on the body of water.
Okay, so that's, that's reference. That works for you?
Yes.
Okay, so, I guess the other people we have to, make sure understand that is the, Mass Environmental. Because I know for a fact that they don't always adhere
Yeah.
to that. They may say,
It's been an issue.
no way, you're not,
Okay.
and it's closed and blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, and, we can, and the problem is you can't, there's not, and I'm not dissing Mass Environmental, because, they've done a great job out
Sure.
there, for sure, but, there's not a lot of room for debate. We should talking to them about
Yeah,
doing something they don't want to do.
understood.
So, I just wanna make sure, if they know that it's okay, and you can
Yes.
put that in the permits to say that, Shrewsbury resident can launch their boat and follow the normal protocol of no way.
I don't think we would have any issue with that. That's something you want to write into the permit, or something.
I just wanna make sure that law enforcement all has, if they don't have something written down,
Yes.
Yeah,
they're not gonna follow. You know,
Understood.
and I don't blame, you know, because that's, you know, they go by, this is what the permit says,
Understood.
and that's what they have to adhere to. So if
Yep.
it's not on there, they can just say, they can make a judgment call, you know, they can call an audible and say, oh yeah, go ahead, you know, just, you know, wait, but if it's on the permit, it's probably a better thing.
So.
Right, and that permit would be the marine permit. We can write that into the notes.
well, Worcester and Shrewsbury, for Worcester residents who are, you know, south of the Route 9 bridge.
Worcester's on their own. That won't be kidding.
If,
Yeah, no,
the
yeah, that would be-
police, if you guys have your beginning of year meeting, and you let me know, I can get you a document of this
Okay, okay.
bullet points. Just let me know what it is, or if you need
I
me to
think, I
come.
think we should just term it resident.
Yes, resident of,
Worcester, Shrewsbury.
Budding
doesn't matter.
residents.
Just, yeah, just the lake, lake resident.
and not limit them to north of the Route 9 bridge, any resident,
No, yeah, any resident.
because any other resident can just go to the other boat ramp.
Well, yeah, no, not
Lake-
really, because if you
lake-
can't get under the Stringer Dam with your boat, like a
Oh.
pontoon boat,
Okay,
you know, which you really can't, then no, the Flint Pond boat ramp's not gonna help.
so they just need to provide proof of
Yep,
address.
yep.
Okay,
And I will certainly, we work with Captain Scott Amati, who does
Yep.
all of the details. And
Yep.
I will certainly,
Yep.
I will certainly let him know with that.
yep, I will pass this schedule on that Patrick sent me to him as well.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'll type up a little conditions document for them.
All right,
Are we gonna take a vote?
Oh, would you like me to pull it back up so you guys can,
I was just gonna say.
I switched it. This is they're pretty good about keeping their website up to date. So if anyone has a question, they're welcome to go to,
Oh, you know what, that wasn't, because when people call me up and say, is it all right, especially in the fall races this year, is a ramp closed today?
oh, it says on the website,
I don't know, I looked it up.
QRA regattas / lake schedule. It will say,
All right.
Corzini boat ramp closed.
I must have looked at the.
I think they added that recently, because I think in previous
Okay.
years it wasn't on.
I tried to.
You're absolutely right, because that's actually new to me as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's. a recent-
I had to text Patrick like 3 times,
Uh-huh.
different
Yeah.
weekends to see if, hey, we
Yeah.
closed this weekend?
So
So I was just
we will-
thinking, oh, we should put that on the website, and there it is.
So we will, include that. I'll include the link as well for,
All right, and, you know, I wouldn't mind if we put it on the Lake Quinsigamond Commission page still.
I will try.
Is that possible?
We can try.
You can make them do it, I know you can, okay?
Yes, and then, I know at Race Point across the way, I'll talk to them too if they have a similar calendar.
Okay.
Just to speak concisely, if I may, Mr. Chair, from what I see here, Lake Budding residents who have concerns about putting their boats in, understand, most weekends in May, the ramp will be closed. Most weekends in May, the ramp will be closed. I said it twice. So,
All right,
So with proof of address, you're a resident of the lake, you'll be able to launch your boat, but otherwise the boat ramp is closed. Correct?
yes,
Okay,
okay,
and otherwise approved.
all right. Is that the motion?
Okay, I can make a motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the 2025 QRA spring racing schedule as presented to us today.
With the provision
Or
that,
if I
with the
change the
provision
words,
that
according
lake
to the
residents are
schedule.
able to launch their boat on the ramp with proof of ID.
We're gonna add that in.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yes,
All right,
fine.
does that, everyone understand the motion? Okay. Is there a second?
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, so what?
Okay, thank you.
Good luck, have a good,
I appreciate that.
off-season.
Thanks.
And now,
Katie?
Katie, lake management, I went to the ones with the lake management, plan, so that's, you don't need to do that. And then, an update from Katie Lund.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Katie Lending. I'm the Lakes and Ponds Coordinator for the City of Worcester. I know we're going through a lot of agenda items, so I'll try to stay pretty brief. But for some water quality updates, just in case anyone hasn't heard yet, Massachusetts did declare a level 1 mild drought status, including in the central region. So this was after having 2 months of below normal rainfall. The state made that determination. So we have seen some impacts of the low rainfall on the lake, mostly just that Poor Farm Brook is dry at the inlet. Clarity, on the other hand, has continued to be pretty good. At our 2 sampling sites, it's between 8.25 and 10.25 feet on our most recent sampling event last week. And the lake is still heavily stratified. Dissolved oxygen is now dropping between 20 and 30 feet deep. We are just wrapping up the end of our in-house monitoring season. So last week was our last sampling dates for this season. So we're very excited to dig into our data analysis tasks for the winter, and we'll be presenting those results at our annual State of the Lakes event. So stay tuned for those details as well. Other sort of monitoring recreational notes on October 9th, most recently, Mass Wildlife stocked rainbow trout in Lake Quinsigamond, and my colleague Nick ran into their stocking truck when he was out, and they said that they saved some of their biggest fish for Quinsigamond because apparently it's a destination fishery, and as everyone knows, it's a wonderful resource and people love to come and fish here. Now, we have been having some reports of cyanobacteria scums or other types of scums on Flint Pond. That is one of the areas that we sample with our volunteer monitoring group. Our most recent sampling day was this past Saturday, October 26th. We did see pretty low risk of exposure for Flint Pond from the results from that day, which is good. However, cyanobacteria, harmful algal blooms can be pretty ephemeral, especially on Lake Quinsigamond and in the fall. So just a reminder to lake users, if you see something that looks like really green water or something that you're not totally sure about, never hurts just to avoid contact with the water in case of any doubts. As the chair mentioned before, it's within the period of years to update the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Project Plan for Lake Quinsigamond, so I'm looking forward to supporting those efforts in producing the new plan and certainly in gaining priorities and taking another look at our lake management priorities along with the commission, so look forward to supporting you all of that. With some updates from my own program, this was announced last time, I believe. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but I think my update was still read. So the Lakes and Ponds program has released a project to do watershed-based planning for 3 of the main recreational sub-watersheds in Worcester. Lake Quinsigamond is one of those. So we have received responses back from our request for proposals on that, and we're working on evaluating the responses. We don't have the cost of the proposals yet because we just finished evaluating the technical side. So we got 4 pretty strong ones, and we're hoping that we'll be able to contract and get a really great project out of that. So the ultimate goal of that project is to identify sources of non-point source pollution, particularly excess nutrients throughout the watershed. So I'll be reaching out to you, but also to colleagues from Shrewsbury and Grafton as well, to search for collaboration opportunities and identifying sources, and then coming up with plans to mitigate and improve excess nutrients entering the lake. So some of those types, ultimately this planning process is intended to be a framework to guide future efforts and to try to address the challenges that the lake experiences, such as algal blooms, such as invasive species, which are fueled by having excess nutrients, by taking a holistic look at how we can reduce those excess nutrients in the first place. Moving on, last time we also mentioned that we are installing a few particle separators to remove sediment entering a few watersheds. One of those will be located on Suntog Road for a stormwater line which discharges into Half Moon Cove. So that project is out to bid currently, and the responses are due next week. So we're excited to have that project underway as well. And last and finally, the Blackstone River Coalition, which has been monitoring the Blackstone River watershed for 20 years and collecting data with volunteers, reached out to the Lakes and Ponds Program and the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. And the BRC, the Blackstone River Coalition, is going to be submitting, as part of a water quality monitoring grant, a project to monitor bacteria in Coal Mine Brook. And so that little sub-project will be a collaboration with an organization called the Excel Corps. I believe that is their full name, and they train, they offer job training in environmental fields and kind of green infrastructure types of fields. So we'll be partnering with them to monitor possible bacteria loading in Coal Mine Brook at several different sites, kind of upstream and downstream of different outfalls discharging into that brook. The City of Worcester, as part of our stormwater permit, we do monitor bacteria levels from Coal Mine Brook at its inlet into the lake. And if we do have high levels there, we can at that point follow up on things further upstream, but we haven't really had opportunity to, kind of dig into any sources potentially of bacteria in that brook on a closer level. So we're excited, as long as the grant is approved, as long as the grant is awarded, to hopefully collaborate on that project as well. Those are all the updates I had. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thank you.
I do have one question, to sound like Columbo, but would any of the projects that you're doing, would that qualify for CPC money?
So we
Some of the stuff you're gonna do, how are you gonna fund it? Is that just gonna be coming from the Lakes and Ponds program, or?
for the watershed-based planning,
Yes.
so potentially depending on what the kind of project is, sometimes it could be. The type of planning that we're doing will make us eligible for an existing grant program that DEP runs. The funds are originally from the EPA.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Section 319 is the existing grant program. There are other funding streams as well. Stormwater infrastructure is kind of the most common type of management practice that comes out of watershed-based plans, but it's not the only one. Other types of management practices can be street sweeping or public education. And so if it's kind of a little outside of that established norm, there's lots of additional funding sources as well.
Okay.
So this is actually the third time that I've heard Jacqueline's presentation, which is you're very great at it.
Is that-
So
It's only my second.
what's that?
It's only my second time.
There you go, yeah. But yeah, all that to say, there's tons of overlap between, priorities of the Lakes and Ponds program and CPA. So
Okay.
hopefully we get
All right.
projects in the future.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right. So, review correspondence, which I think I've already done most of the time. We have a document thing here, which I'm going to recuse from. So, that's going to have to go down to the vice chair. We'll figure out how to get that all straightened out. We already went through the other correspondence was basically from the people in Flint Pond and Round Pond.
In Newton Pond.
And Newton Pond. They were asking about, plant management. And I think that's
That's it.
No one's here from the Watershed Association.
No one's here from the Watershed Association, so we're not, sorry.
Barbara had no updates.
All right.
And our
I find
next,
it hard to believe.
and our next meeting is?
So the next meeting is scheduled for, hold on, let me pull up my calendar real quick. November 20th, and that's running into Shrewsbury town meeting times and all of that, so we might not have a room. So the solution, current working solution is we go remote, and I will just record via Google Meet. Otherwise, we'll have to look at pushing it into December. But I was wondering what the commission's preference is.
What's your pleasure? I mean, anyone have an appetite to meet in December?
Wednesday, December 4th?
Do you want me to check the selectmen's? Hold on, let me pull up their calendar real quick.
Well, it's school committee over there, but this might be.
We will check with PD to see if we're allowed to use this room again. I wonder if Sergeant Bradley is able to look at that calendar. I don't have access to it anymore.
It looks like it's free the evening of December 4th.
All right.
Evening of December 4th.
December 4th.
We can confirm that somehow, just to,
Yeah, I can reach out to the training room sergeant this afternoon.
okay.
So
We can lock it in.
tentatively here,
Tentatively here,
December 4th.
December 4th.
Okay. Is that good for everybody?
Yep. And then we'll have the following won't be until the end of January and or February.
Okay. All right,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.